we witnessed a move away from what we were now seeing as a rule-bound global globalization process into the progressive weaponization of economic instruments in global trade. You are actually now using the access to a large market like the United States or control of the financial system, say through the SWIFT process. All these were now seen as part of the globalization system based on market-based rules. The fact that you can now deploy this as an economic weapon was a new development. As you have seen, for example, in the war between Russia and Ukraine, Europe, not just the US, but Europe used the SWIFT system and various other processes. The deployment of sanctions, where you are then interfering with global trade, became part of that weaponization process. It wasn't that, Europe is fighting a war with at least they are supporting Ukraine. US is in a contestation with Iran over various issues. So, okay, you are entitled to then impose sanctions on Iran where you deny them access to your market. But what has happened? This has been globalized so that all countries who have no interest at all in the relationships of the United States and Iran or the Russia-Ukraine war are now being caught up in collateral sanctions. And we are being part of the weaponization of the global trading system. So all these have now become instruments which mean that the whole notion that we lived in a world where market forces would become a major factor in determining international economic relations has now progressively moved away to this new world order. Now, in this process, you have to then see the application of tariffs. Tariffs have now become part of the weaponization process. It has now become a political instrument. Now, partly we are seeing this as being used as an instrument to correct what is a bilateral deficit, but it is also being used for other purposes. The application of tariffs initially against Canada and Mexico was over fentanyl exports. Now, can you imagine that? That you are trying to deal with a huge consumption of fentanyl within the United States and then blaming Mexico and Canada for letting this come into the country and then imposing tariffs on them. Now, this has got nothing to do with economics, and it could be applied then to many other areas as well, and it is being applied to many other areas as a policy instrument. Now, this means that the US market, which was once seen as a very central element of the globalization process because it encouraged growth and development all over the world to access that market, has now become a strategic resource, and it is being used as such. So that issue now has to be taken into account. And tariffs, which determine the terms on which you enter that market, have now become part of the political instruments of the weaponization of the trading process.